What's good, everybody? The Minnesota Timberwolves have a major problem, and I want to talk about it. But before that, remember to like the video, subscribe if you aren't already, hit the bell icon if you are, and you know the drill by now. Let's get to it.
48 views.
So the Timberwolves lost game 2 to the Mavericks Friday night, and Luka hit another game-winning shot to add to his all-time clutch legacy resume that he's been building. For the Wolves, this loss was agonizing. This loss put the Timberwolves down 2-0 in the series, and it's the first time they've been down 0-2 so far in the playoffs this year. And at this point, the Timberwolves' biggest problem is pretty evident. The roster's great, while not perfect, but more than anything, they need more playoff experience. I think what we're witnessing right now before our very eyes is a great team that's going through growing pains. In game 1, they were able to hold the Mavericks to 6 for 25 shooting from 3, which is 24% overall, but lost after they still weren't able to stop them from getting into the paint. In game 2, going into the second half, the Timberwolves were up by 12 on the Mavericks, and at some point later in the third quarter, they were up by 16 after Naz Reid started going crazy. It seemed like the Mavericks still haven't played their best game, but it didn't matter because they meticulously started carving into the lead, and before you know it, they were right back into the game going into the fourth quarter. Luka and Kyrie are providing an entirely different level of an offensive challenge for the Timberwolves, and their defense is really struggling to keep their arms around those two just by themselves. With more stress on the Minnesota defense, that puts more stress on the Minnesota offense, which goes back to their offensive inefficiencies that we've been talking about throughout the year. In game 2, Towns and Anthony Edwards combined to shoot 33 shots, but only were able to make 9 of those. And so, specifically speaking with Edwards, looking at his last 5 games, he's been in a slump, and I think he's just tired as he's been putting in a lot of effort on the defensive end in the last series and obviously this series. So in addition to gaining more playoff experience to become more battle-tested, the Timberwolves are also going to have to figure out a way to streamline what they're asking out of Anthony Edwards, because I think asking him to be the team's primary scorer, most consistent, and the team's perimeter defender at worst is a lot to ask. So on that note, we'll have to see what the true potential of Jaden McDaniels will be, but it's clear that Anthony Edwards is going to need a consistent second star next to him to lessen the scoring load, or another perimeter defender that can take some of these assignments like Kyrie Irving. Karl Anthony Towns getting benched and not being allowed to finish this game is probably the biggest head scratcher from game 2, in my opinion. And shout out to Naz Reid, but it is a shame that his heroic effort was not enough, but just had to shout him out because he did put down 7 out of 9 threes. Experience is something we all need more of in certain areas at certain points in life, and I think that's the major problem that the Timberwolves are facing right now. They also will need to flesh this roster out, figure out what they're going to do with Towns. Maybe Gobert should be on the move possibly, depending on what you can get for him. So moving along to final thoughts. I'm sticking with the Mavericks. I do think they're going to win this series, but like I said earlier, I'm not going to count the Minnesota Timberwolves out. I'd be surprised if they came back and won the series, and I do expect that they'll win at least a game or 2. But that's all I have for you today and my thoughts on the biggest problem that the Timberwolves are facing. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.
48 views.